Wonderful. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member Crapo and members of the committee. First off, I just want to acknowledge and appreciate the opportunity to testify on the vital role that tax incentives play in our nation's affordable housing delivery system. Again, for the record, I'm Andrea, Director of Oregon Housing and Community Services. We serve as the State of Oregon's housing finance agency. First off, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your steadfast leadership for many years and continuously elevating the needs of the people of Oregon and their housing needs collectively. Senator Crapo, I also want to acknowledge and just uplift your support for affordable housing. Your leadership certainly does not go unnoticed. For years, our nation has not built enough rental housing, but the conditions and circumstances spurred by the pandemic have made our housing crisis particularly acute, to which individuals with low incomes, individuals and families with moderate incomes are bearing the brunt of that impact. With rising interest rates, escalating home prices, skyrocketing rents due to the mismatch between supply and demand, many would-be homeowners are often left stuck renting. And more than 70% of extremely low-income renters across the United States spend more than half of their income on housing in 2021. 70%. That's 70% of individuals that have to make tough decisions every single month throughout the year about what bills they'll be able to pay and how they are going to get by. The housing credit and housing bonds are by far the most essential production tools that we have at our disposal. Affordable housing simply relies on these programs. The housing credit specifically is a highly successful both public and private partnership. And what we know is when we stabilize individuals and stabilize families, we also stabilize communities, which has an economic benefit. In the state of Oregon, nearly 70% of all rental homes financed in the last 5 years relied on bonds. Costs are increasing due to inflation, supply chain disruptions, many things that I know that members of this committee are fully aware of. Housing finance agencies and our partners across the nation are doing everything that we can to prevent deals from falling through. But the unfortunate reality is that sometimes financing gaps are simply too large, and in some cases, there are no resources to pull from to help cure those financing gaps. The most impactful thing that Congress can do is to pass the Senator Cantwell and Young's Affordable Housing Credit Improvement Act. It would both expand and strengthen the housing credit. It would significantly increase the housing credit authority, allowing us to build more properties like Riverbend Place in rural Ontario, Oregon. The Affordable Housing Credit Improvement Act would also provide states greater flexibility to spread existing bond resources to more developments by reducing the bond financing tests from 50% to 25%. I also urge Congress to pass the bipartisan Lifeline Act introduced by Senators Leahy and Collins. This bill will enable states and localities to most effectively use federal fiscal recovery funds to fill financing gaps in housing credit developments. I also quickly want to mention two pieces of legislation that the Finance Committee should take up on means of homeownership. Senator Cortez Masto's Affordable Housing Bond Enhancement Act would enact simple and impactful improvements to the mortgage revenue bond and mortgage credit certificate programs, which are essential to serving low and moderate first-time home buyers. This is, again, creating pathways to home ownership, the dream that many of us have. Senators Cardin and Portman's Neighborhood Homes Investment Act would establish a new tax credit modeled after the highly successful housing credit. Now, simply put, the housing crisis simply will not get better if Congress does not act. In my last few seconds, I would just urge both and elevate my appreciation for this committee, and we need Congress to act. The action is going to come post this committee and what decisions we'll be able to make in service to the American people. I appreciate the time.
Well.